Hi there, crime fighters. Today was a great In Touch, where Officer Dawn and Ray the DA discuss the importance of victims and how they should be placed first. And then also the fact that our office utilizes social media to help the victims get their voice out. Thanks for listening, crime fighters. Join us next week. This is In Touch.
Welcome to In Touch. I'm Officer Don with Fayette Commonwealth's Attorney Ray Larson. Mr. Ray, what you got for us this week?
Well, this is, as usual, a busy week. The legislature is gone until they come back for what they call a veto session. I'm anxious to see whether the criminals won or the citizens won, and we'll have to take a look at what some of the laws they passed and some of the funding that they came up with before we know that, and it'll be probably another week or so before we're able to do that. If law enforcement and prosecutors and corrections budgets were cut and the public defenders budgets were increased, then we'll know that the criminals won. If we've weakened our laws on violating crimes have been diminished, then we'll know the criminals won and that the citizens have lost. So we'll just have to see, and we'll keep you up to date on that in the next couple of weeks. Now, Crime Victims' Rights Week is coming up, and that'll be the week of April the 16th. And we put on our second-class citizen luncheon every year. And that's, why do we call it that? Not because we think victims are second-class citizens, but because that's the way they're treated by the criminal justice system, we think. And we're joining forces with the Attorney General's office. They're putting on a victims advocacy training conference in Lexington. And they've asked us to be part of that, and would we mind bringing our second-class citizen luncheon to this far bigger audience than we usually have. And of course we're happy to do it. And they have kind of said, you just do what you want at your second-class citizen luncheon, which is always dangerous.
Yeah.
So let me tell you what we're going to do. We've come up, Mary Houlihan and her group have come up with a great idea, and that is, our topic is going to be using social media to give victims a voice. You know, we typically have to count on television or newspapers or radio to get our message out in the past, but that ain't where it is anymore. And so what we're going to do, because we use social media a lot in our office, just like 98 Won the Bull and all of the Clear Channel radio stations do. And so what we do is we're going to talk about that. Now, a great example was, you remember, Glenn Donahue came up for parole.
Now, he's the thug that ran over the police officer here
Brian
in
Derman.
And he got convicted.
Got a 20-year sentence.
And how long ago was that?
Oh, a couple of years ago.
Okay, so now 2 years later,
He was
coming up for
eligible
parole.
for
That's
parole.
right. 2 years, folks. 20-year sentence for killing a police officer.
Well, he had served, he gets credit for the time he was in jail pending the trial, so it was long, about 3.5 years. But regardless, he got a 20-year sentence. And so they notified Brandy Derman, Brian Derman's widow, that they had a victim's hearing, and she could bring 10 people and had 30 minutes to talk about why this guy shouldn't be paroled. Well, that was, of course, outrageous. And so we were at the office talking, and I suggested that we do a petition. And then it occurred to us that we might do an online petition, and we did. Now that's social media. And what happened is up it goes, and we had 12,000 people sign on and comment from every state in the union and 11 foreign countries. Were very interested in what happens to, in effect, a cop killer. You see, and most of it was from law enforcement. So we realized that social media is a big deal, and that may be the only way victims get their message out. So I brought Allison Beck is with us this morning, and she's typically the person that talks about In Touch on our social media. And so I'd like Allison to kind of tell us a little bit about what does she do once we're doing this right now, and we're recording it, so it'll be on Sunday. And so what do you do, Allison?
Well, I get the privilege of coming to 98.1 each week, and I record...
Well, that was a suck-up.
That's right. I love that.
I record Officer Dawn and Ray, what they discuss each week, and then I also take pictures. And then when I get back to the office, I use the pictures, and normally I make a pic stitch, and it goes on Instagram, Facebook, and the website. And then I also edit the video, and I put that on
Is that
the
so you can
website.
feature me or Dawn?
Both.
Oh, good answer.
And so I put it on all of those different social media.
Right. And so it goes on our website, which is lexingtonprosecutor.com. It goes on Instagram, which is Ray the DA Lex. It goes on Facebook, and I don't know what that is. And it goes,
Ray the DA.
yeah, and it goes out on,
It also is on Twitter.
yeah, so we cover it because that's where communication is going, we think. I mean, you all think that, or you wouldn't be doing such an
Well,
extensive...
it's it's the same old thing. There's always been different ways to market, but obviously social media is there and here to stay. It's going to evolve and change. But one of the issues you have with social media, which I'm sure you're familiar with, is it's hard. There's so many avenues to get your word out that sometimes it's hard to get to a large group of people. So that's why you have to blast it. Not just Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You do everything. But you made a good point about what it must do for crime victims. People before, we really didn't have a voice other than a rally here and there. They could go on the radio and do an interview and talk. But now with social media, you can blast your message over and over and over again. And politicians and people who make policies are very aware of the power of social media. Sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. It's also given some crazy fringe groups maybe more of a voice than they should have too, but that's another subject. But the good part is the victims who used to have no voice now have the opportunity to vent and be heard.
Well, one of the things we're wanting to do at this our second class citizen luncheon is describe how we've done this. Now, Allison, tell us your job at our office is not a media person. What's your job?
My job at the office is, the title is Felony Case Director, so I receive all of the cases from district court, put them together, and then I assign those to the prosecutors in our office. And then I also order records that the attorneys request as well.
Yeah, prior criminal convictions. So that's her job. Now, one of the strengths of Allison and a lot of the other young people in our office who work with this social media is they have a job, but they're very bright, they're very efficient, very smart, and they get their job done quickly, and they also have the opportunity to do some of these things that they like to do that makes their job more interesting for them as opposed to just processing paper. And so each day that we record this, Allison comes out, and one of the things she does is do the pic stitch that she sends out on Instagram, the Facebook, and whatever else we do. We also send out a newsletter to about 10,000 of our closest friends. And it's just all about trying to get the message out.
And so what do you say to people who says, and I'm sure you've heard this, but especially from the not so happy non-supporters, spend more time prosecuting, less time marketing. Well, what are you marketing? Why is it important to you?
Well, first of all, we prosecute like crazy. That's our job. We know that's our job. So
Why is marketing important?
marketing is important is basically because the bad guys are winning these days. I mean, all you have to do is look at the legislature and look at the catch and release, let them out of jail crap that's going on, and the bad guys are winning. And most of the public doesn't get that. So they just don't get it. And we have to wake them up. And if we ever wake them up to the point that they need to be, guess what? This will all stop. Because there'll be people elected that are going to say, excuse me, we probably have been more worried about the cost of crime versus the cost of incarceration. I mean, the other way around. Worried more about the cost of incarceration versus the cost of crime to somebody who has their car stolen, or somebody that's had their home broken into, or somebody who had all of the copper stolen out of their house that's being built. I mean, give me a damn break.
So the prosecutor's office, the Commonwealth Attorney, not only prosecutes criminals, but you are an advocate for victims and an advocate for future victims. Because there was one politician that said, was it Ronald Reagan? What did he say one time? You quoted this before. Today's liberal is tomorrow's conservative crime victim? Or
No, what he said was, yesterday's liberal is today's conservative who was mugged last night.
There you go.
Yeah. And guess what? That's the way it works.
Oh, it definitely will change your perspective. I mean, when you become a victim of crime, especially burglary, I think burglary is the one that as an innocent person that you're most likely to have to deal with. You know, with the burglary rate the way it is. In other words, you've done nothing wrong. You're not in a bad neighborhood. You're not out buying drugs. You're not doing something you shouldn't be doing. Putting yourself in a bad spot, and suddenly somebody's in your home with a gun taking your stuff.
Well, let me tell you.
Those people, you talk about changing their perspective on life after they've been burglarized.
Well, we've had a recent string of car thefts in Lexington, and here's what one of those victims said. It's something that's just indescribable. I feel like someone's touching my personal belongings. Just makes me feel violated. That's an that's a car theft victim. Think about some yo-yo pawing through somebody's underwear drawer. I mean, that's scary. That causes people to sell their house.
And at least get new underwear.
Well, maybe. Yeah, right. Good.
Well, it's interesting because victims' rights have always been important to you.